Today we're talking about this one, number 27, The Exposed, the second ghost-written book and another Rachel book. The ghostwriter for this one isn't actually credited in this, but according to Seropedia, it was written by Laura Butchiani Weiss. Weiss? That's her name. Just call her Laura from now on. So, book 27. We start out with Rachel in a gymnastics class, and an Audi TT comes up to her and says, "Do you want to fucking, be my girlfriend?" And she says, "Toss off, you loon." And that's the first chapter, essentially. There's a little bit in here about how Rachel feels like she's almost betraying Tobias, but she has this inner monologue of, well, he's a bird, can't exactly go to the movies and stuff like that together. So she feels a bit guilty for putting down this TT bloke. We don't know what it stands for. I don't think they do either. TT returns at the very end of the book for Rachel to tell him to sod off yet again. And for the life of me, I can't really think of the importance of this TT character. That's about as much as he contributes to this book. I think partly it's to do with Rachel deciding who she wants to be her boyfriend. It turns out she chooses Tobias over the human because, I don't know, she chooses personality over looks, which is cool, that's great and all, but it doesn't really add to the story that much, unless I'm missing something. If I am, and you know what I'm missing, you can tell me, but that's TT done. Don't need to bother with that fuck anymore. Right, moving on to the plot. Rachel and Cassie bump into each other at the mall at a very convenient time. And this is one of those, oh, how convenient moments. But it's deliberate. It's very deliberate. So they bump into each other, and then Cassie sees Eric off in the distance, and he's just standing by a shop, just fucking standing there, and his hologram is flickering in and out like a static TV losing signal. And I need to turn my computer down because it keeps fucking beeping. They have to figure out what's wrong with Eric, but he's moving really sluggishly, and at one point he just comes to a complete stop. And his hologram disappears. So something's happening to the Kelbrid what do I keep fucking bringing up? Kelbrids these days. Fuck. Chee, right? Chee. Chee technology is fecking up in some way or another. So Rachel and Cassie find him and they say, well, what the hell are we going to do here? They drag him into some sci-fi shop. I forget what exactly the shop's called, but it's a sci-fi shop. And they put him at the back, thinking, right, this is the best place we can leave him without him bringing in too much attention. He does bring in some attention, but Rachel comes up with a plan whereby she puts a massive price tag on him and everyone fucks off, which, not surprising. $5,000 for that thing? What a load of shite. Rachel tells Cassie to stay with Eric while she goes and handles some things. Things like calling Jake to say, get the fuck down here. And then to buy Eric some clothes so they can get him out without him looking too suspicious. And there's a great little line on page 17. So, Cassie is to be left with Eric. Cassie gave me a sour look. Thanks, very funny. Here's a comic question for you. What do I do if some controller sees Eric and realises what he is? That wiped away some of my giddiness. Protect yourself, I said. I met Eric's frozen gaze. You're number one, Cassie. Push comes to shove, give up Eric. Oh, spicy. And she's looking at Eric while she's saying that. Right, Cassie, I'm looking at you, Eric. Cassie, Eric don't matter. Push comes to shove, tell him to fucking do one. Sorry, Eric, did I see you there? I thought, I do apologise. Yeah, we don't give a shit about you. When it comes down to it, it's us. You can fuck off. That's basically what she's saying there. It's a bit harsh, but it puts you into... This is the mindset of the Animorphs, and these are the decisions that they're starting to have to make. And this is a very Jake-like decision that Rachel is making. It's a very... she's taken the leadership role here between herself and Cassie. She's saying to Cassie, look, this is a tough decision, but if things are going to go bad, give up Eric. I prize you more than I prize him, despite what he is, and... Yeah, it's quite harsh, but it's one of those tough decisions that, unfortunately, sometimes happens. Rachel phones Jake and then goes to the shop to get Eric some clothes, and the Animorphs come in. And Marco decides to go in as a gorilla, but to disguise himself, he comes with an advertising board. And then he comes in and he knocks out the shop worker, the staff for the shop, who's starting to get suspicious. And then he grabs Eric, who's now in the new clothes, and drags him out of the shop over his shoulder, out of the mall. And I'm thinking this is where it gets a bit silly, really, because when Jake was outside, he said, oh, all the security cameras broke. So, great coincidence, nobody had any recorded footage of any of this. But then they travel back on a bus with Eric, and they take him to his home. Now, I'm thinking, while this is going on, apart from Marco, and Axe, who isn't there, I believe, and Tobias, they're walking home with this gorilla with a Chee over its shoulder. What if a Yeerk saw that? Saw a gorilla with some suspicious-looking android wearing clothes, and then he looked at the two humans that were with them, thought, I think we should nab those two. You'd have thought Jake would see that and think, okay, I don't know, we morph fucking fly or something and go with Marco on his fur or whatever. No, they just walk by his side, hoping that no controller ever sees. Which thankfully they don't, because there's some shenanigans going on in the mystical, godlike background, as we will soon discover. They go inside Eric's house, and there's Mr. King, Eric's father. And he's explained what's going on. He's frozen in place as well, and says all the Chee are now frozen and our holograms are all down. But only two of us managed not to be in a place where we could get caught. And I think, hold on. Okay, so we don't know how many Chee there are, but we're thinking there's quite a few. But all except for two managed to foresee this happening, or they just so happened to be in a place where no human would pop across them. I am still very suspicious of the Chee, by the way, and that hasn't changed after this book. Also, I want to ask, when did we figure out that there are two things in this book that just seem to have popped out of nowhere? Firstly, Rachel calls Tobias her boyfriend, which, I mean, they've shown signs of that sort of thing for each other, but they've never declared it. And at the start of this book, it's just like, he's my boyfriend. It's like, okay, where did that come from? Fair enough. Second thing is, how did the Yeerks ever actually come across the Chee? And how do they know what the Chee are? Because the Chee came to Earth long before the Yeerks were anything, really. Let's be honest. So the Yeerks have been there for a few years. How do the Yeerks know what the Chee are? How? Well, the first book was the android, and the Yeerks wouldn't have learnt about the android then, unless there's really good security footage, because he came into a room and killed everyone in that room, so there were no witnesses. 15, he was in there, but he just talked to Marco. 20, he was in there, but he just talked to the Animorphs. 25, he was there, but again, he just talked to the Animorphs. 26, yeah, they did. When have the Chee ever been discovered by the Yeerks? And they're just saying, like, oh, the Yeerks will see us and they'll know what we are, and then they'll find you because of us. It's like, how the fuck does this happen? This needs so much explanation in the background that we don't have. It's ridiculous. And then to finish off this chapter, so Mr. King is telling the Animorphs, oh, we got one in this abandoned warehouse that needs saving because a human will go in there soon, and one in a nuclear plant or something that will get discovered in approximately 10 hours time or something like that. And he says, your task is to go save them and blah, 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 go down to the Pemelite ship, which is deep in the ocean, 5 kilometers down beneath the ocean. And then the chapter finishes on page 34. There's one more thing, Eric said. The Pemelite ship's signal will have been picked up by orbiting Yeerk spacecraft. They may already be down there waiting for you. Wait, so let me get this straight. This Pemelite ship's signal, which isn't, as far as I remember, mentioned anywhere else, this Pemelite ship's signal, which we can only imagine is active all the time, can just be picked up by orbiting Yeerk spacecraft. And the Yeerks might already be down there. Did you not think to tell Jake about this, Eric? Maybe a little at all? Oh, sorry, Animorphs. I just wanted to mention that our ship that controls us and has access to all of our fucking controls, yeah, it's down there in the ocean, and the Yeerks can pick up the signal from it so they can find it. And they're probably down there now. And they can fucking destroy us. Okay, that's important knowledge. This just goes back to my theory of the Chee are these weird double agents that are just messing with everything. Because that shit, if they were genuine, that would be the first fucking thing they'd tell the Animorphs. Right, our Pemelite ship gives off signals. There's a good chance that the Yeerks will catch on to that and find it. They leave it till now. They leave it till now to tell Jake and the others, yeah, you have to, the Yeerks will be going down there, so you have to hurry. That's fishy shit, that is. That's weird. Fucking Chee, man. The fucking Chee. What is it with you lot? So the first step is to go to see Lords or Lowards or Lordy, who's one of the Chee who's in this warehouse pretending to be homeless, and she's under a staircase. And apparently there's a raid going on in a little bit. That's awfully convenient timing, isn't it, Chee? Isn't it, Chee? Right? Fuck me. So the Animorphs go to this place, they go into battle morph, and they go into this place just as the police are coming in, and some of these criminals start shooting at the police, so there's a bit of a gunfight going on. Cassie, who, I mean, I've never talked about this before, but she's so reliant on the wolf morph, which, let's be honest, is the shittest battle morph, apart from perhaps Tobias, but he provides air cover, so he's got an excuse. Cassie has no excuse for being this little wolf. All the others are a rhino, elephant, bear, these things that can take a bullet or two. She walks in and gets shot, and she's down. And then she's a fucking liability to the rest of them. This is the point, Jake, where you turn around to Cassie and say, we need to get you a better battle morph, because this is ridiculous. You're just a fucking liability at this point with this battle morph. But no, it just carries on. Cassie will always be the wolf. She could be something more useful, maybe. A tree, she could fall on them. I don't know. Just throwing suggestions out there. But they're having a bit of a scuffle, these criminals, and there are police there as well. One of them's a controller, and he's the one, he shoots Marco. There's basically just madness in this place. Put it this way, Rachel in her elephant morph has grabbed Lords, who's the Chee, and is just sort of wielding her like a fucking mace. And this police officer controller is looking at this elephant, and he thinks, oh, what's the safest thing I can do to deal with this situation? I know, I shall step closer. And then I shall step closer some more. Bonk. What a fucking klutz. Rachel reaches into wherever Marco and Cassie have fallen, puts Marco on her back, and then puts Cassie up there too, and Marco's holding on, and Marco rides the elephant out of this place, and they catch up with Jake, who's just sort of barreled on through and not stopped, because he's a rhino who doesn't have a fucking clue where he's going. Oh dear. Cassie's mom shows up because she's the vet, and she's super vet. Basically, there's a big beacon in the sky with her logo on it. She puts on her costume and rushes out. She's there in about 5 minutes. I mean, it's not like she hasn't got any other jobs to do. So they get away and they have to move on to the next part of the mission, which is going down into the ocean and finding this Pemelite ship and reactivating the signals. It's not really explained what's gone on, but apparently Jake is given by Mr. King the controls, and apparently the Pemelites are so docile, they're like dodos really. Like when man came to the island with the dodos on it, they weren't used to predators, so they just sort of waddled around not giving a shit, and the cats just ate them all. Pemelites are a bit like that, where their security code is a single digit, because they don't anticipate anything coming and doing anything malicious to them. But yeah, Jake gets these instructions. They have to find a way to get down into the ocean. And they have a bit of a think about it, and they think, right, we need to get something like a squid. Cassie says squid. And yeah, they've come up to the conclusion that, okay, we don't know where to get a squid. let's just give up. So they fuck off home. And then there's this bit, while they're having this discussion, they're all talking about the plan. And Axe is being his usual, what does this word mean, self? Kamikaze, Axe asked. It means suicide, Axe, I said. Death to you and me. Saving the Chee isn't going to be a suicide mission, Jake said, glaring at me. You're overreacting, Rachel. My jaw dropped. Worrying about something as lethal as atmospheric pressure was overreacting? Wanting to get home in one piece instead of dying? Since when? If Cassie had said it, Jake would have told her she was overreacting. He would have agreed. He would have thought she was being sensibly cautious. Wasn't I allowed to be cautious? No, of course not, I thought bitterly. I'm supposed to be a reckless fighter machine, and fighter machines don't feel caution or fear, and even if they do, they don't advertise it. Well, excuse me. I suppose I'll just shut up and follow orders, I said. That's an interesting interaction. And I really liked that little bit there where the characters are all sort of, by this point, they're realising what their roles in the team are. And they're feeling stapled into these roles to the point where they're getting a bit bitter about it. Rachel in particular in this case, where she's not allowed to feel a certain emotion because a certain reaction is expected of her. And she doesn't like that. But all throughout this, and I think through all of Rachel's development, she has been growing more and more aggressive. And she knows that. She's quite self-aware of that, and she's worried about it. And that little bit plays into that, where she's constantly reminded of the way her own character is developing, and she resents it, but in a way she accepts it. But she still doesn't like that she accepts it. I like that. I like that. Nice bit of character development, methinks. And then I think the worst part of the book, chapter 13, pages 64 to 65. They spend at least 2 pages, like 2.5 pages, just repeating the same joke over and over. Wasn't it Journey to the Bottom of the Sea? Marco asked. No, it was Voyage, Jake confirmed. Journey sounds better, Marco said. And for the next 2 pages, they just keep repeating that line of jokes. It wasn't really funny the first time. And it just kept going on. I thought, fuck me. They're in a really difficult situation here, and they're on hours of time to get this really shit thing done. And they spend 2 pages joking about the title of some book that I doubt any child between the age range of 9 and 12 had ever heard of. Yeah, I think it's both misplaced and overdrawn. A bad combination. And that is easily the worst part of the book, where they're just, yeah, that's pretty awful. So once they've decided to go home and give up, Rachel goes in and she sees on the television that a sperm whale has become beached on the local beach. And the sperm whale is the animal that they've decided back when they were planning, oh, that's the one that we might need to get a squid with. Where do we find a sperm whale? We don't know. Therefore, we give up. So Rachel sees this and she's suddenly very, very suspicious. Who the heck would do this? But it's obvious that something's going on in the background that's causing all these little coincidences. She calls the other Animorphs and they get together again at this beach. And then a little bit of hypocrisy from Rachel in this one, page 78. I felt a shiver of fear, suffocating. The whale was suffocating. A whale, beached so we could acquire it. A pawn in someone else's game. Expendable. Not if I could help it. Do you remember at the start of the book, Rachel, where you went up to Eric and said, "You're expendable." Cassie, this Chee is expendable. Fucking Demon Rachel over here. It's Demon Rachel now. Demon Cassie is long gone. It's Demon Rachel now. But yeah, it's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? At the start of the book, Rachel said to Cassie, right, if push comes to shove, Eric is expendable. Just leg it. And then this whale thing comes along. She says, how dare somebody use this whale or put this whale in pain to do whatever they think needs doing. How dare they? All right, Rachel, yeah. That's called hypocrisy. You're turning into Cassie, okay? Stop. One Cassie is enough. It's one of those things where Oh, the enemy is the bad guy. We're the good guys, even if we're doing the same thing. Instead of going into detail on how that works, I'll just leave it to a Blackadder gag to really pin the message to your corkboard.
Field Marshal Haig is most anxious to eliminate all these German spies.
Filthy hand weasels fighting their dirty underhand war.
Unfortunately, one of our spies...
Splendid fellows, brave heroes.
And then chapter 16 begins. It lay below us, improbable, out of place. Huge. It dwarfed the small army of humans who clustered around it like busy ants around roadkill. The whale looked dead, but I knew it wasn't. Whoever or whatever was directing this little play wouldn't allow it to be dead. Eric didn't believe us when we said that we couldn't find a way to get his ship, Jake said. He said, "You will. We have faith in you." Again, it's just another reason to believe that the Chee are playing games here. He's basically saying it. Oh, don't worry, that something will turn up and you'll get down to that Andalite ship. Just wait for the news to come on. Just keep your eye on the news. Fishy shit. Fishy shit. I've got so much material on the Chee now to do like a full theory video about what's going on with these freaks. The Animorphs are at the beach and they decide that two of them have to acquire the whale so they can go down and find both the Andalite ship and the squid. And they do straws because Jake is still relying on that really shit method of delegation. There's a nice little bit where Axe can never tell if he's being humorous or not. He says it's a human scientific method, the short straw, which I found quite funny. But Rachel and Tobias cheat. Essentially, Tobias knows which are the short straws and makes sure that they both get the straws. And Jake is no longer a fool. He is no longer one of them. Cassie and I started down the dune. Jake grabbed my arm and pulled me aside for a private word. "Don't you ever do that again," he said, far angrier than I had suspected. "It's your fault," Tobias is going. "Remember that next time you decide to make fools of the rest of us." Oh, Jake. Fucking yes! I fucking love Jake. He is awesome. Just little bits like that now. It's good. He knows and he's saying to Rachel, "Don't you ever fucking do that again. That's not how we work as a team." Yes, Jake, pull her aside and do that. That's what you were missing in the early books. Bringing Rachel over and saying, "Look, behave yourself." That's what we've been missing, but now we're getting it. Love it. So Rachel and Cassie go down to the whale. And Chapman and Tom are there, of course, because what would the controllers be without our duo of doom? And they're throwing water on and there's a break in it, in which time Rachel acquires the whale morph. And then she goes back to Jake. Tobias gets stuck, so they morph bird and morph seagull, knock him off, and then they fly out to the ocean. There's a weird bit in here where Rachel has returned to the dune, where the animals are hiding behind to morph seagull. And Jake asks, "Well, where's Cassie?" And Rachel says, "Well, you're going to have to order her to come back here because she ain't coming back here on her own." Then they morph to seagull, then they knock Tobias and they fly away, implying that Cassie didn't go with them. And then when they're out in the ocean, suddenly Cassie's there again. She zapped back to them when she was needed. It was weirdly written. I think it should have been explained more clearly that Cassie did actually join them at some point, because it's just, oh, she's back with the whale. Next minute, oh, she's out in the ocean with us. It's just, it could have been written better. Rachel and Tobias morph the sperm whale, and they dive down. They're searching around for a squid or the Andalite ship. They're unsuccessful on their first attempt and come back up to the surface. There's this thing going through this bit where Tobias is scared of water and Rachel is claustrophobic, and they're both suffering a bit from that. It doesn't really add up to anything. It just adds a bit of tension to the scene. Not that there was much added, to be fair. The scene had enough tension on its own. On second attempt, they finally find a squid, or Rachel does, and she's getting attacked by it. At the same time, the exact same time, it's another one of those little coincidences that I think was done on purpose, but at the same time, Tobias finds the Andalite ship. Rachel's about to be killed by the squid. Tobias comes, sorts the squid out, and they drag it to the surface. And they acquire it, and then Squid goes away, and they start to morph. And there's this bit on page 119 that I just need to point out. My internal organs were slithering away to hang in zero space until I returned to claim them. I was being scooped out. Is that how zero space works? I thought it was only mass, as in just mass. Not specifically like organs, and I thought if you morph something bigger than yourself, then nothing went into zero space. It was only when you were morphing something smaller because you had to get rid of excess mass. So this doesn't seem to be how zero space works, as far as we know. But then again, who the fuck knows how zero space works? I just asked that we be consistent with what we've been told in previous books, what little of it there is, which this isn't. So there's that. The Animorphs are now all morphed the squid, and they head down. And because they're squid, they've now no longer got the echolocation of the whale, so it takes them quite a while to find this Pemelite ship again, but they're helped because there's a line of lights. And it's not phosphorescent fish this time, it's bug fighters, the most versatile spaceship to have ever been built. This thing flies in space, and it flies 5 kilometers down underwater. They're called modified bug fighters, and Christ almighty, it's got to be hell of a modified. It's practically a different ship, surely, but hey-ho, that's... The book doesn't feel like it needs to add another type of Yerk spaceship. It's too much effort. We'll steal the one. They see these bug fighters because, yet again, a convenience. But again, I think it's a convenience that...
Could you try again?
I didn't talk to you, Siri. Sod off. Why are you kicking off?
How to respond to that?
You don't know how to respond to anything because you're a prick. Go away. Bloody Siri, what's he kicking off for? Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so... They arrive at just the same time that the Yerks do. Great. Convenient. Oh dear. So they find this ship, and it's down in a little canyon, and it's just this big thing. It's illuminated with like a green outline. A green outline. Green outline. Keep that in mind. So in this sea of blackness, there's this green outline. They're like, that's the Pemelite ship, and it's shaped like a Pemelite, which is a really weird shape for a spaceship, but... Hey, the Pemelites were a weird bunch, so they're going to do weird shit, so it makes sense. They swim down, and they're able to get into this ship as the squids. And it's really weird, the technology that the Pemelites apparently had. Not only can they build these super ultra strong mega robots, but as the squid go into this new environment, which is described as very much like an Andalite dome without the military sort of stuff in the background. It's like a big park. It's very similar to the sort of thing we saw in book 4. Very similar. In fact, this whole book is quite similar to book 4, really, isn't it? Yeah. It's got a lot of book 4 sort of elements to it. Maybe just because it's underwater, but a lot of it does feel the same. The dome ship-like feel of this ship, the whole going underwater and being chased, and the Yerks being above their heads. It's very much a book 4 kind of thing. It does feel like ground we've covered. Anyway, I'm losing track. Right, where was I? Yeah, they go in as squid, and the Pemelite ship works that anything can go in and is immediately catered to in a way that it needs to be catered to. So they go in, and then they're just in these bubbles of water that float around with them. So wherever they move, the bubble follows them. That is until, of course, they don't want the bubble to follow them anymore, in which case it doesn't, but we'll get to that. Turns out the bridge of this ship is just a tree trunk, which Axe is not very happy about, but who cares what he thinks at this point. They go up to that, and they type in whatever they need to type in to reactivate. I mean, as I said before, they never really said what was wrong. They just said, oh, you need to correct the thing that's gone wrong. So they do that. They correct it. Weird. But yeah, then the Visser comes down. He's got a bunch of Hork-Bajir Taxxons with him. Because they could, you know, this Pemelite ship signal's been there for the many years that the Yerks have been there. And they've only just discovered it now. At the very moment. That the Animorphs need to go down there. Whatever, you know. Fucking Chee, what are you up to, you little shits? Turns out that the Pemelite machine speaks to the Animorphs in thought speak because, as we've discovered before, whenever there's the little complication of alien races probably using different languages other than English, they just automatically use thought speak. I've come to the conclusion, as I'm reading these Animorphs books, that thought speak is a bit like Gallard. We know Gallard is almost like the universal language, like the English of the alien fucking universe, whatever. Thought speak is just that go-to common language. They're all just telepathic, these aliens. Anyway, Visser comes in with his Hawkbajir Taxons, and then suddenly the droid comes up. And now the droid is this weird sort of wrinkly dinosaur with a human head, sort of waddling along like that. And he's got a really screechy, high-pitched voice. Fucking something like that, I imagine. And he's laughing at the Animorphs. And he's saying, I did this. I did the thing. Okay. So the droid apparently works for Kryak, right? And he organised for the Animorphs to come down here so that they would fight with the Yeerks. Okay. And there was a possibility that the Animorphs would be killed. Why the fuck is this plan so goddamn convoluted, droid? Why couldn't you do something fucking simpler? Just make... Why are the bad guys in this book always coming up with the most convoluted bullshit plans that never work? I mean, honestly. I mean, his plan's thwarted, isn't it? And he has the whole, no, hoisted by my own petard sort of thing at the end of this book. If you're as powerful as this droid seems to be, just, I don't know, make the Yeerks go to Jake's house and find him. He could potentially get out of that situation as well, but he'll be in incredible danger. Instead, we have this whole thing where the Pemelite thing flickers and the Chee, 3 of them are placed in really weird places where people will see, not really weird, the opposite of really weird, really obvious places where people will see them. And then there's this Pemelite signal that suddenly the Yeerks find, and now they find the Chee, so now they know about the Chee. And all this blah, 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 blah. Why the fuck, droid? It's a shit plan. God damn it. And do you know why it's a shit plan? Because as soon as the Animorphs got to that machine and redid the Chee thing, it was over. Because Eric just zapped down there, sorted it out, and got them all back out again. And the droid was like, no, how could it possibly be? Are you thick, mate? Jesus. Right, the droid, right? Remember earlier, the Pemelite ship. It was in the big black sea, illuminated by a green outline. How's the droid described? Near black. And around his eyes and his mouth, a green outline. Think about that shit, right? That just adds a whole new level to my theory. Is the droid a Chee hologram? The Chee knows about Kryak because of the last book. He's fucking chums with the Ellimist. Oh, fucking Ellimist down the street said there was something up over here. I'm here to help you guys. He knows about all this shit. He would know about Kryak and the sort of thing he would do. Wouldn't it be very easy for the Chee to come up with this massive convoluted plan as a way to get the Animorphs to, I don't know, trust them, see them as allies, rescue them, get them on their side a bit more? Or maybe just have fun. What do the Pemelites do? They spend all their time having fun. Maybe the Chee are the same. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we made the Animorphs and the Yeerks go 5 kilometres underwater and have a battle? And then just before things are about to go to shit, we'll jump in and I'm there to save the day. And then they all fuck off. And then we'll have another game some other day. And we'll make it so that this droid character is the new bad guy. That could be fun, couldn't it? Who knows? Who knows? I'll tell you what, it makes more bloody sense than this plot does. I will say there is an absolutely fantastic line from the droid. He says what I've been thinking throughout this whole series. A lot of the time I'll be talking about these books and I'll say, oh, why is Cassie so hypocritical? And I do wonder to myself if the characters in this book think the same things I do, whether this series is rather self-aware. And it is. A couple of books ago, where Marco sort of put across that Cassie was a hypocrite, I loved it. I said, yeah, that's great. I love that. The droid just comes up and fucking says it. All here together, the prune thing mocks Cassie, the hypocrite. I don't believe in violence except when I do. Yes, droid, I've been saying that all along. And I love the fact that this series is so self-aware. I love it. And I love the droid, even if he is a Chee hologram designed to trick the Animorphs. Tobias, yes, Tobias, the boy not really so trapped as a bird, but too gutless to resume life as a human. This is cool, I like this character. And then there's one more thing that he says on page 135, and it's regarding Jake. Kryak, Jake said, you're his creature. Oh, very clever, Big Jake, Prince Jake. Have you killed your brother yet? No? Well, you will. Ooh, spicy prediction. That's all. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, okay? And spoiler, he doesn't. But there's still a reason that I find this line particularly fun. Okay? Yeah. This is good. I like this line. Jake just completely shrugs it off. He just thinks, oh, I'm not listening to anything you're saying. Well, So yeah, the droid says all his usual bullshit, and then the Yerks approach, and Visser 3's there, as per usual. And I do get fed up sometimes with this book. So, Visser 3 said, we meet again. I mean, come on, it's just the same old fucking tropes and cliches.
Exmonoids are unemotional, cold-hearted psychopaths. They will have no hesitation using hackneyed old cliches if it suits their purpose.
I mean, I suppose what do you expect? It's a book geared towards young adults. They need all the fucking cliched lines thrown in there. It's cringe, but, you know, I can get over it. So Eric comes down because the programming's all been sorted or whatever, and he slows down time, and then he programs the Pemelite ship to separate everybody before they all massacre each other, place them all back on their ships, and then send them on their way. it's like, what? Right, so yeah, I sort of get it. I like the new technology, this really weird technology that's capable of slowing time practically to a stop and moving people about at its own will. Who do we know does that? Oh yeah, the Alarmist. Starting to think things yet. We'll leave that sort of theory for another day, but it's, you know, clogs are churning in here. Clogs? Yes, the clogs are churning in here. Apparently then the Pemelite ship just moves away so they can't be found again. Okay, but the Yerks know the signal that the Pemelite ship gives off, and there's no indication in this book that this signal was just given off at this specific point in time. It just says, oh, yeah, there's a signal, and the Yerks will probably pick it up. It's never said whether this was just a temporary thing while all the other stuff was broken. Okay. Are we just to assume that's the case, or is it? Because if it isn't the case that this was just temporary and this Pemelite ship's always giving off this signal, then the Yerks will just fucking find it again, won't they? And they'll go down there. And now apparently they know about the Chee. Fuck me. Yeah, and then we get the TT on the beach ending, and Rachel and Tobias have their little lovey-dovey moment. And that's the end of the book. That's the book. Oh, right. Laura Baciani-Weiss. I will say, I thought it was, for the most part, written very well. The couple of bits that weren't written so well are the bits that I've covered. Apart from that, I thought it flowed very smoothly, and I was relatively happy with the entertainment value. It did tend to slog on at bits. It was a lot of the recent books I've just flashed through without wanting to put the book down. This one I had to put down a couple of times, so it's yeah, it's not as good as a lot of the recent books. Parts of it were quite entertaining, but yeah, it wasn't that great. The concepts involved were at times a bit confused, and some of it was quite interesting, especially the stuff going on with the droid and the Chee, because there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the background there that I don't think we're ever privy to, but it's just left to our interpretation. I think the Chee are a big part of that. There's some weird stuff going on there, and she plays that quite well, old Laura. There's one thing that I noticed about this book that sets her aside from the other authors like K.A. and Jeffries Yulk. There are a lot of words in this book that I looked at and thought, is a 9 to 12-year-old really going to understand that word? The word omniscience is one that springs to mind, which is one that I didn't know when I was between 9 and 12. I know what it means now, but I looked at it and thought, I probably would not have understood that when I was that age. Words like debacle, which is relatively common usage, but those weren't the only ones. There were quite a few words in this book, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, that were quite high level and that we haven't seen the likes of before in Animorphs. It's usually the language used is quite simple, but Laura obviously has a way with words and wanted to use them. There was a word that I, at the tender age of 29, didn't know. It was like poculate or something like that. Not postulate, I know what postulate means, but it's like poduculate or something like that. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is that word? I'm fucking 29. What chance has a 12-year-old got? So yeah, Laura, good writer, but the language just needs to be a bit toned down, I think, for this particular book series. Jake's leadership. I liked the bit where he took Rachel aside. It's the first time he's really properly done that, because Rachel has been asking for a stern talking to since book 2, let's be honest, and he finally did that. At the same time, the whole short straws thing was a bit silly. And he needs to tell Cassie to get a new fucking battle morph, because several times now she's been the weak unit. You look at your weak units and you find a way to improve it and make sure it's not the weak unit anymore. He should be doing that, but he's not. He's just letting Cassie get away with having this shit battle morph. No offence to wolves, but a wolf, grizzly, gorilla, tiger, you know which one's the odd one out. But yeah, a relatively steady book for Jake's leadership. I'm going to give it a 6. It is all right. I will say before I move on to the actual score, I'm disappointed that Marco... I'm reading these books, obviously I'm getting it from an outer perspective, but I'm very suspicious of the Chee. I'm really suspicious of the Chee. And some of the things that I've said just seem so outwardly suspicious. And Marco, who's supposed to be the cold, calculating one who sees through bullshit, not once has he thought about, you know, these Chee, what do we really know about them? They don't know. The amount of times they've been given bad information and all this weird shit in this book just happened, all conveniently at the same time. Oh, they're just going to accept it that it's this droid character. They're just going to accept that. The droid wasn't there. The Ellimist didn't come down and say anything. It was just this droid character. It turned out to be in the Pemelite ship, who looks quite similar to the Pemelite ship. Illuminated green outline over a black background of the deep, dark sea. Right. Yeah, Marco, this is your job to be the cold calculating one to say, right, what do we really know about these Chee? There's been a lot of weird stuff happening with them, and we need to figure this shit out. We need to be asking some serious questions. But no, none of that. He's just, Chee is my friend. Just reminded myself of a Friday night dinner joke. Jimmy's my friend. Eric's my friend. It's fucking... Yeah, if you don't know Friday night dinner, you don't know what I'm doing. Just tell me to fuck off, please. What am I going to give this book? It's bordering on a 6 and a 7, I think, because it's relatively entertaining, but there are flaws. There are a couple of moments where it just seems to break Animorphs' law. But it does have some spicy stuff. So I forgot one fucking important bit. Probably the most important bit of this book, the whole point of this fucking book. The droid offers Rachel a decision. If you kill Jake and join us, things will be a lot better for you. He doesn't say how, he just says, join us, it'll be much better over here. The grass is greener, you see. Just kill Jake for us. Rachel discards this. She says, oh, fuck off. On your bike, Sonny Jim. I think this parallels the TT bit, because she's got the decision of, do I stick with Tobias and keep to my, you know, like his personality, or do I go with the TT bloke who's really cute, looks really attractive, but I don't really know. And I mean, I think it's a bit harsh to compare TT, such some average guy, to the fucking most evil creature in the universe, but you see where the comparison is there. And she chooses Tobias, she chooses personality over looks, and as far as we know, we do know, she chooses Jake and the weak Animorphs over Kryak and whatever. That's the only reason I see this TT thing being in here, but it just seems like a really needless comparison. But what do I give this book in terms of score? I'm going to give it a 6. I don't think it wasn't that entertaining, especially compared to the last few books. There are little issues. It did have its good moments, but I think overall, yeah, I think it's a high 6, but yeah, 6 it is. That was The Exposed. The next book in the main series is this one, The Experiment with Axe and the Cow. Wonderful, but we're going to do that one in 2 weeks' time, because there was a book published between 27 and 28, and you might have seen it here. Animorphs. Yes, that's right. I'm going to review Animorphs next week. And being the great Animorphs fan that I am, the best Animorphs fan in the world, I never read Animorphs. Silly me. This will be my first look through Animorphs. Awesome. But that is for next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I shall see you all next time. Ta-ra.